even law schools, and therefore it's rarely used. Just take a moment and imagine how quickly justice could be restored if a judge had to fear being indicted if he ignored the law and threw a case. Our founders provided in Article 3, Section 2, and in the Sixth Amendment, that all criminal prosecutions shall be tried by an impartial jury. And they gave us a right to a jury trial in civil cases. They intended that the jury decide both what version of the evidence was to be believed and whether the law, which the parties were asking to be applied, was just. The founders envisioned the jury to be the ultimate check on the power of the state and the ultimate protection against injustice. As Patrick Henry said, why do we love this trial by jury? Because it prevents the hand of oppression from cutting you off. This gives me comfort that as long as I have existence, my neighbors will protect me. Alexander Hamilton said that juries make bribery more difficult because there is always more time and better opportunity to tamper with a standing body of judges than there is to tamper with a jury summoned for a trial. However, the jury's role has been undermined because now judges routinely tell jurors that they have to follow the law as explained to them by the judge. And the United States Supreme Court has said that you are not entitled to a jury trial unless you are charged with a felony. Our founders required public trials so that the public would know if a judge was acting improperly. They protected freedom of the press so that the press would inform the public of government wrongdoing. They understood that if a judge was subject to public scrutiny, the judge would be less likely to act improperly for fear of being shunned by his neighbors. Now there's much less public scrutiny because federal judges and most state judges live in homes with undisclosed addresses. And cameras are not allowed in the courts according to court rules in the federal courts, and in many state courts, cameras are not allowed. So the public doesn't get to see what's going on unless they take the time and effort to go watch a hearing or a trial. So how do you know if a judge has acted unfairly or has engaged in misconduct? You may feel that a court ruling did not seem fair or know that it was contrary to the facts or the law, but how do you know whether or not the judge engaged in misconduct? What is evidence of judicial misconduct? How are judges supposed to act? The Code of Conduct for the United States judges provides that judges should comply with the law, as well as the provisions of the Code of Conduct. It states that public confidence in the impartiality of the judiciary is maintained by the adherence of each judge to this responsibility to follow the law. And that conversely, a violation of the code diminishes public confidence in the judiciary and thereby does injury to the system of government under law. The code provides that a judge should respect and comply with the law and should act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the jury, of the judiciary. Excuse me. I talk so much about the jury sometimes. Okay, the code provides that a judge should not convey or permit others to convey the impression that they are in a special position to influence the judge, and that a judge must avoid all impropriety and even the appearance of impropriety. The code requires a judge to disqualify himself in a proceeding in which the judge's impartiality might be reasonably questioned, including instances in which the judge has a personal bias or prejudice concerning a party. It requires a judge to be faithful to and maintain professional competence in the law. We've all heard it. Ignorance of the law is no excuse for violating it. And this applies especially when you are a judge. Furthermore, the code requires a judge to give every person who is legally interested in a proceeding the full right to be heard according to the law. The provisions of the code require judges to act in a manner which is consistent with due process, which guarantees us the right to a fair hearing before an impartial tribunal which follows the law. The codes of conduct for state court judges are very similar to the ones for federal or United States judges, as they are also based on these fundamental requirements of due process. Due process also requires a court to have jurisdiction to hear the type of case brought before it. Requires that such subject matter jurisdiction must be invoked by a properly filed petition or complaint naming the parties to the action, and requires that process must be served in order for the court to obtain personal jurisdiction over the parties against whom relief is sought, and in order to notify such parties of the lawsuit. Due process also requires that a party must have opportunities to be represented by counsel, to have time to prepare, and to be able to call and present witnesses and evidence. Due process is also known as the fundamental fairness doctrine. So what is the law that a judge should follow? The supreme law is the Constitution of the United States, against which all other law must be judged. Then there are statutes and court rules, and there are cases construing them. Judges are required to follow these statutes and rules and the cases construing them issued by superior courts. The Code of Conduct requires it, as do thousands of cases in which superior courts have instructed the lower courts to follow the rules, to follow the statutes, to follow the Constitution, and to follow the cases construing them. So what is that?